The hollow beneath the pines. Lena had always found peace in the solitude of nature. So when she discovered an isolated forest marked on an old map, she couldn't resist. The place was known for strange occurrences, with rumors of people who entered and never returned. But Lena didn't believe in curses. She was simply seeking an escape from the hustle and bustle of the city. She parked her car at the edge of the forest, the towering trees ahead creating an almost impenetrable wall of shadows. With a deep breath, Lena shouldered her backpack and stepped into the woods. The air was thick with the scent of pine, and the silence around her was unnerving. She expected to hear birds, rustling leaves, or even the distant call of wildlife, but there was nothing. The deeper she went, the more the forest seemed to change. The once clear path disappeared beneath thick underbrush, and the trees grew so close together that it was hard to tell where she was going. Lena's sense of direction began to falter. She stopped, trying to make sense of her surroundings, but everything seemed the same. After what felt like hours, she stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a circle of ancient stones, covered in moss and worn by time. Lena felt a strange pull toward them, though she couldn't explain why. The stones were eerily symmetrical, as though placed with a purpose. Before she could reach out to touch one, she heard a low growl from somewhere in the trees. It was deep and guttural, unlike any animal sound she had ever heard. Her heart raced. She turned but saw nothing. The forest was still, as though holding its breath. Nervously, Lena began to walk back in the direction she thought she had come from. But the trees seemed to have rearranged themselves. She couldn't recognize the path, and soon the growl came again. Closer this time. Panic surged through her as she realized she was lost. She stumbled through the woods, desperate to find her way out. The growl followed her, echoing through the trees. Her breath came in ragged gasps and her legs ached with exhaustion. But the sense of being hunted drove her forward. Eventually, she came to a creek, hoping to find some sign of the road. She knelt down, trying to steady her breath. The sound of rushing water should have been calming, but in the oppressive silence of the forest, it only felt wrong. The air was unnervingly still. Then a voice, low, almost a whisper, reached her ears. "Lena!" Her body froze. It wasn't a human voice. The words were somehow familiar, yet distorted, like a memory she couldn't quite grasp. She whipped around, but there was no one there. Just the trees, silent and unyielding. Terrified, she began to run again, her feet stumbling over the uneven ground. But it wasn't just the growl now. The voice followed her, whispering her name from the shadows, growing louder and more insistent. In the distance, she saw a figure standing in the trees, tall, thin, with glowing eyes that gleamed like dark pits. It didn't move, but Lena could feel its presence, like an unnatural weight in the air. Every instinct told her to run, but her legs felt like lead. She turned to flee, but the forest seemed to close in around her. The path she had taken earlier was gone, replaced by thick underbrush that tangled around her ankles. The figure moved closer, its eyes locked on hers. Suddenly, she was back at the stone circle, the same one from earlier. The figure stood just outside the ring, watching her with its empty gaze. The voice whispered again, this time from all around her. "Lena!" She stepped back, but the stones pressed closer, trapping her in the center. The figure reached toward her, its long, shadowy arms stretching impossibly far. Then as the figure's cold fingers brushed her skin, everything went black. Lena awoke on the cold forest floor, her body heavy and unresponsive. The silence around her was deafening. She tried to move, but it was as if the forest had locked her in place. The trees loomed over her, their branches like skeletal hands, watching, waiting. The forest had claimed her. Beneath the roots, the whispering forest, Oktay had grown tired of the noise. The kind that settles into your bones, the kind you can't escape even with your eyes closed. He needed silence, real silence. So he packed a tent, supplies, and a notebook, and set off toward a forest a few people spoke of. An unnamed stretch of ancient woodland, hidden far from the roads and maps. There were no trails leading into it, no signs, no names, just green upon green, stretching endlessly. When he arrived, the trees were taller than he imagined. Their branches weaved together like they were trying to block out the sky. The forest was quiet, unnaturally so. No birdsong, no insects. Only the sound of the wind brushing against bark, as if the trees were whispering to each other in a language too old to be understood. He pitched his tent in a clearing surrounded by trees that looked centuries old. The bark was dark, almost black, and twisted in unnatural patterns. He thought of them as sleeping giants, watchful, unmoving, but alive in some hidden way. That first night, as he lay in his sleeping bag, he heard it. Breathing, not his own, not an animal. Slow, deep, intentional. It was just outside the tent. He froze, his eyes wide open in the darkness. The breathing stopped, but something was still there, watching, waiting. At sunrise, everything looked normal. The forest was quiet, still, and cold. When he stepped outside, the first thing he noticed was the zipper, halfway open. He was certain he had closed it. Pushing down his unease, he wandered deeper into the woods. Hours passed. Shadows grew longer. Eventually, he stumbled upon ruins. Broken stone walls covered in moss. The skeletal remains of a structure. Inside the collapsed walls, he found a rotten desk, and beneath it, a notebook sealed in waxed cloth. It smelled of earth and mildew, but one page remained readable. They wait below the trees. Do not dig where the roots are black. Do not speak to the voices. They are not yours. He stood in silence for a long while, staring at the words. They felt like a warning, not a story, not superstition. A warning meant for someone like him. That night the forest felt heavier. The shadows seemed to stretch farther, as if trying to reach his tent. When the whispers came, they were clearer than before. Voices, many, too many. They spoke in a language that didn't belong in the world of men. Harsh, cold syllables that scratched at the inside of his skull. He couldn't understand them, but he felt them. They weren't asking. They were calling. Against all instinct, he stepped outside. The forest was still. No wind, no moonlight. He moved slowly, flashlight in hand, and felt the thud beneath his feet. Hollow. He knelt and brushed away the damp earth, revealing a wooden cover. Its surface was carved with strange, spiraling symbols, shapes that felt alive, shapes that seemed to shift slightly when you weren't looking directly at them. And in the center, a circle surrounded by jagged lines, like a sun turned inside out. He didn't open it, not yet, but he stayed there, frozen, until the whispering stopped. Whispers in the Ferns. Eli was an experienced hiker, used to remote trails and long days alone in the woods. When he found an old forest path on a forgotten map, he couldn't resist exploring it, despite warnings from locals who said the place was cursed. He brushed off the stories. People loved to make up ghost tales, especially about quiet places. Hours into the hike, the trail vanished beneath thick ferns. Then he saw it, an old stone arch hidden in the clearing, covered in vines, ancient and unnatural. He stepped through it, and the forest changed. The air went still. No birds, no wind. When he turned around, the arch was gone. The trail? Gone. His red tape markers? Vanished. He pulled out his GPS. No signal, just a blank screen. Then came the whisper. Eli. He spun around. Nothing. Just trees. The whisper returned, sometimes ahead, sometimes behind. The forest grew darker, thicker. Fog slithered along the ground. His flashlight dimmed, though the batteries were new. In the trees stood a figure. Pale skin, hollow eyes, a mouth stitched shut. Yet somehow she whispered again. Stay. Eli ran. Branches slashed his face. Roots tried to trip him. He stopped at a creek, gasping, and saw something carved into the stone. There is no out. Then his light died, and the whispers came from every direction. Eli, you're ours now. They never found him. Only his backpack, soaked in dew, beside the empty clearing. Now they say the forest whispers at night. Sometimes it calls for Eli. Sometimes it says your name.